All right, y'all. We'll go ahead and get started today. First and foremost, thank you all for joining us. We know this is an incredibly tough year, busy job. If you've chosen to be in education, like the rest of the folks on the call, so know that taking an hour out of your day is nothing that we take lightly. So thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Andrew Hodge. I work for TEA, and I am the Director of Innovative Instructional Models. A lot of the work that we do deals with additional day school year, so helping folks to rethink the way you think about the school year, and then also a lot of the blended learning work falls in our group. So in addition to that, work with the Texas Home Learning team and some roles as well. Before we get started, some housekeeping. So any questions that folks have, please throw them into the chat. We'll have time for Q&A throughout, and then definitely quite a bit of time towards the end. We'll also be managing an FAQ and getting that information out there for folks that either weren't on the call or want to get another set of questions answered. So just throw your questions in the chat as you have them, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go over the course of our day. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off just with a quick overview of Texas Home Learning. I know plenty of folks that are on the call either receive our newsletter. If you don't, sign up for it so we can make sure that we keep you updated, or heard about this in another way. So want to make sure that folks have kind of a general similar starting place with Texas Home Learning. And then I'll kick it over to Garrett and the Sdmath team to give an overview of some questions that are top of mind that we've heard from districts and schools and teachers and parents thus far. And then let you know how you can sign up and benefit from this deal. So want to go ahead and just kick it off. Welcome y'all. Today, the focus of our conversation is the newest addition to the Texas Home Learning suite of resources for schools. And this is for the Supplemental Online Math Program for students. There's a student-facing program that is intended to help them build deeper, better, stronger math understanding, and is Sdmath, and we're excited to announce that today. Before we do get started with Sdmath, I want to reroute in Texas Home Learning in general. So for folks that are just joining or unaware, Texas Home Learning is a suite of resources. It's fully optional. All different parts of it are optional. And they're meant to work together. That's what we meant to mean when we say aligned up here. And these are for folks to use as they see fit. We know there's quite a bit of new challenges faced out there this year. We want to make sure that teachers and leaders and parents are able to use these resources to make their jobs easier. And so three main components of which we think about Texas Home Learning really fall into, they answer the question of how can we do just that, support teachers and leaders in making their jobs easier to support our students this year, given the unprecedented nature. So that falls into instructional materials, so the actual content that teachers are working with, and want to be very clear, our instructional materials are designed specifically for this moment, which we'll talk about in a minute, float between in-person and remote instruction, right? So if you have, a lot of them are built for remote, but you can bring them, you could print them, you could use them in the classroom as the teacher sees fit. We also know that technology is a great tool for us that in our lives in general, but also we know it can be a huge tool if used correctly in facilitating learning. So technology is a component. But at the end of the day, this is about people. All this is about people, and it's about making sure that folks have the training and professional learning available to them to be able to use these tools as they are, to be able to use these tools to help out our students. I want to talk very briefly about the technology component of Texas Home Learning. One piece within how we think about technology that's relevant specifically to this crew here is a license for Schoology. Texas Home Learning has provided a 2-year license to the Schoology learning management system for districts. We've had a little over 400 districts that have already opted into this deal for this free 2-year license. Just want to make sure the folks that are on this call right now, I know we have a lot of kind of blended learning, digital learning folks that are there, that y'all know that this is still something that's available if your district chooses to use it, that you don't have to start until March 1st of 2021. Still available for y'all to use. If you want to learn more, go to powerschool.com/Texas, as you see at the bottom. I mean, you can sign up. We recognize that I also want to be clear here that there's a lot of systems, LMSs that folks are using right now that are great, that meet their needs. If that's your case and you're not using Schoology, that's fine. You should continue using what's working for your districts. We know changes this year are tough, right, on top of everything else. So we're not asking folks to change. We're saying that if this is a useful tool for you, you should take advantage of this deal with Schoology. Hopping over to instructional materials, I want to kind of root this in two pieces. One is Texas Home Learning kind of core instructional materials, and what those are your core pre-K and then K-12 subject level courses. Sdmath, the subject of our conversation today, is supplemental. So when I'm speaking specifically in this section, I'm talking about our core instructional materials, which we have built specifically for this new learning environment. When we think about the unprecedented nature of this year, it's not just folks that are teaching virtually. It's not just folks that are teaching in the classroom. It's this constant shift between the two that puts an additional strain on the shoulders of teachers. I think about the challenges that I faced as a teacher, just gathering materials for my in-person classroom, and then you multiply that by 2, and then you compound that by just the nature of this year. It's tough. Our teachers doing an incredible job, and it's such an important job, but one that is difficult that we're hoping to relieve some of that burden with. So with the Texas Home Learning instructional materials, they're being developed for this unique situation, both in person and remote instruction, and a shift between the two, fully aligned to TEKS. Want to make sure that folks know that the core instructional materials that we have are being developed to have not just be fully aligned to TEKS, but full TEKS coverage. And so we'll give a quick overview of those in a minute. The other couple of things I want to highlight before we move on is that there are some of a lot of our publishers, a lot of the products have a national product, just like pretty much every publisher that's used in Texas. The ones that we have through Texas Home Learning are 100% TEKS aligned, TEKS coverage developed specifically for Texas for this year. And the really cool opportunity that I think that we have with these instructional materials in the state of Texas is that we have it built into the contracts, a cycle of continuous improvement. So we're able to take feedback. There's, if you go to the bottom of our webpage, there's a way that you can give feedback. We're able to take feedback on these products, and we're able to turn it around to the publishers, and they implement the feedback. So really cool opportunity to continuously improve these resources to meet the needs of our teachers. When we say core instructional materials with Texas Home Learning, this goes from a full scope and sequence to the units that get you to that full scope and sequence of TEKS coverage, including summative assessments, formative assessments, lesson plans, teacher guides, teacher supports, kind of the whole gamut of things here. Also included progress monitoring and accessibility supports for all learners, and some really cool resources for English language learners in particular. Want to also note that these are designed comprehensively. They're built with best practices of curriculum design in mind. So starting with end in mind, full TEKS coverage of that grade level and subject, and then backwards planning that from a scope and sequence. And although they're developed like that, though, we know that it's December, and there's probably a lot of places where folks are already off running and tackling that scope and sequence. And so we do welcome folks in the field. Use this as you see fit. If you have an upcoming unit that you see an opportunity to use Texas Home Learning instructional materials, absolutely use them if you think they'll help, but don't if you don't. Before today, we had 8 Texas Home Learning instructional materials products announced. We're excited to dive in and learn a little bit more about Sdmath, which is K5. They have more than K5, but the part of the Texas Home Learning deal is the K5 product from Sdmath. It's a supplemental product, and it's fully available today. And we're going to go into how you can actually register and start using it as a part of this presentation. But do want to show that kind of as a component of the broader suite of Texas Home Learning materials, many of which, all of which on this screen are core materials, and many of which, if you see these little O's here, that's to indicate that these are open educational resources, meaning that they're owned by the state of Texas forever. A really cool opportunity for folks to use both today to respond to the new learning environment, but also going forward. We know a lot of folks at districts, first question that comes to mind is rightfully, what happens after this license is up? It's a good question for the folks at Sdmath that I hope somebody throws in the chat here in a little bit. But for the OER products, these are owned by the state of Texas forever. If you want to stay updated with TexasHomeLearning.org, a couple ways that you can do so. One is, if you want to stay updated with Texas Home Learning, you can go to TexasHomeLearning.org. You can also sign up for our newsletter there. Do that, and you can unsubscribe if you feel like it gets a little unwieldy.
Sorry, what?
Thank you. So you can do that if you sign up for those updates, and you will be able to just stay in the loop about any kind of updates with Texas Home Learning. Or you can just check the site as you see fit to stay updated on your own terms. Before handing it over to the Sdmath team, I do want to have a little call out here for our COVID Recovery Instructional Materials Support Initiative. That's a mouthful. We're affectionately calling it CRIMSI. All of our Texas Home Learning materials are available to any Texans as they want to use as they see fit. That's this box right here. Anybody can do that. With the COVID, with CRIMSI, folks get a little bit more. It's free access to professional learning supports. There's additional materials like printed books that we just can't offer to everybody for all the products. These are available with pilot units that folks choose to use. And then additionally, teacher stipends. We know there's a ton on a teacher's shoulders, especially this year, and excited to be able to compensate them a little bit for using these products and giving us some feedback. With CRIMSI, Sdmath is not eligible because it's not a core product. This goes back to the slide that I was showing earlier. These, all the ones but Sdmath are options for this initiative. And the only thing that folks are doing you're piloting one unit. So it's likely a unit that you haven't covered, and that you say, you know what, my teachers are trying to find these lessons for both in-person and remote. There is a unit that works well in Texas Home Learning, and we want to just pilot it, try it out within maybe even just one teacher with one classroom this year. So that's an option through CRIMSI. You can learn more on our website. And this is anybody in the state's eligible to apply. This is districts, any public school in Texas is eligible to apply, so districts and charters. And again, this can also just be one classroom within a school within a district. It doesn't need to be, and it probably shouldn't be a full-scale pilot. These are a few of the recommended units by publisher. Again, these are recommended, but folks within CRIMSI can choose which unit they want to pilot, and they get those extra supports and the stipends. Again, learn more at texashomelearning.org/CRIMSI and reach out to us with any questions. Speaking of questions, again, a couple of ways, just want to shout out that you're able to stay engaged with us. Go to texashomelearning.org, sign up for our newsletter. That's also where we push out a lot of our updates. And then finally, you have any questions, send them to texashomelearning@ta.texas.gov. I'm also going to throw my email in the chat here just as we're having this shared wonderful experience on a beautiful, cold Thursday afternoon in Texas. Again, want to really thank you all for your time. And with that, I want to kick it over to Garrett and the Sdmath team.
Thank you, Andrew. We are really excited to be here, and I'm actually going to have our learning advisor for Texas, Sandra Concilio, kick it off for us first with some of those frequently asked questions so we can hit some of these high important topics right off the bat. So Sandra, go ahead.
Thank you, Garrett. And I was responding to a couple of questions already showing up in the chat. So if somebody wants to monitor those while I'm presenting, but hopefully we address some of the ones that you are already thinking about. So we do have a couple of FAQs that we're already prepared for you. But before I address these, I really wanted to share with you a little bit about my background. I just recently joined Mind Research about a little bit more than a year ago. And previously to that, I was a K-12 math administrator in Brazosport ISD, which is in Region 4, about an hour south of Houston. And the success that we saw in implementing this program through a blended learning model, we had great results come out of that across our districts, across our district and our elementary schools. And I wanted to spread that message. And so it's really exciting to be out of Brazosport and taking that message beyond just our district and being able to share that with y'all. And now to see that statewide, we have an opportunity to put this program in your schools. So this is really exciting for us, and I am happy to be a part of this and help support your implementation so that you can see those same results that we've witnessed as well. So a little bit of the FAQs real quick. We have the recommended number of minutes. So we are looking at K through 5th grade with the Texas Home Learning opportunity. In kinder through 1st grade, we recommend approximately 60 minutes per week. And in those 60 minutes, these are a range of puzzles that they should be collecting and completing, mastering while they're working in Sdmath. 2nd grade through 5th grade, the recommendation is 90 minutes per week. And in that time, they're going to be earning between 35 to 95 puzzles per week. Andrew addressed this a little bit already, but this is core versus supplemental. Sdmath is being provided to you as a supplemental instructional program to complement the core that you're already doing in the classroom, the instruction that's happening. It's not to replace a piece. It's not to stand alone. It's to be supplemental and blend with what's happening. We do align to TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. It is not 100% alignment. And so that is the purpose for us being a supplemental. But the purpose of it is that we can focus on the instruction, build those conceptual understanding around the content that they are seeing so that they can achieve that mastery. We do, again, once again, we do align to grade level TEKS. We have multiple objectives within the program. They are provided to align to your core curriculum. We have correlation guides that we can provide for adopted textbooks. We are creating the one to align with Texas Home Learning Eureka Math. And then we provide guidance on aligning content to your pacing guides in district. And so it's a great instructional tool that you can use. It supports your classroom units. It supports student needs. And you will see student learning happening with Sdmath. Sdmath is available at home and at school. Students can play no matter where they're at, which environment they're in, if it's virtual or remote. If they are at school, they're home on the weekends and the evenings, they have access to play. We do have a full list of supported devices that are found on our website. And then we've also included supports and materials to increase the family engagement with the math that they're doing. The top question that we probably have seen is how quickly can I start? How do we get our students going? We do have the option for integrating with single sign-ons such as Clever and ClassLink. We have supports for various provisioning for that. We also are doing an integration with Schoology so that you can access Sdmath through that app, and all of the work that goes into implementation through rostering and access will be developed in a plan with your implementation specialist during your planning process. We do provide teacher training. There is some that is provided through Texas Home Learning Agreement, and so that includes regional live webinars, similar to this one, that we also have the recorded webinars provided to you. And then we have self-guided modules that take about 2 hours to go through the full training, but those modules are self-paced through our Sdmath Academy to provide you the training that you need to be able to turn around and get your students started in the program. This is a response to COVID-related learning needs. So it is an opportunity for K-5 students, and it is available through December of 2023. We are, if you are a current customer already with a subscription to Sdmath, your subscription will be paused. You'll have the access through December 2023, and then any agreements that you have will be picked up at the end of that contract with Texas Home Learning. And this is the same for professional learning. If you have any currently scheduled professional learning or credits that you've agreed with our organization for credit or for professional learning, those will be delivered. We'll be in contact with our Sdmath representatives to address those trainings for you. This is an opportunity, as Andrew said, for all K-5, all Texans. They will have access to the K-5 curriculum. If it is private schools, homeschools, tutors, other organizations, our education service centers, our school districts, this is provided in the district and through the schools, but we want to be able to take our homeschool students who are accessing it as a parent. We want to be able to map those back to our districts. So if your districts do sign up, we will ensure that any parents have signed up previously to that are mapped and put into your district account as well. So we will be tracking that access as well, because we know a lot of parents will begin signing up ahead, but we want to ensure that those get listed with your schools. All right, so as we go through, Garrett's going to share with you a little bit more about Sdmath. So be sure to put the questions in the chat, and then we'll take a few Q&A at the end of this.
Sandra, I think we're good with questions in the chat. Garrett, you want to take us away through a quick demo overview of Sdmath?
All right, looks like I'm sharing the screen now. So really excited to be here with everyone, coming to you live from Austin, Texas. Unlike Sandra, I'm not a native Texan, but I am a Texan by choice, which I think is better in some ways. You see here my friend Yeehaw Gigi is feeling very festive. So we are super excited because Sdmath is an incredible program. And the organization is an incredible organization. I've been here for 10 years. Prior to this, I was an elementary school teacher in Denver Public Schools. Really only liked teaching math and science. So when I found an organization that was creating a really unique math program built on neuroscience, it was kind of a dream come true for me. So you've met Sandra, you've met me now. You could see all of our beautiful smiling faces on that Texas homepage. After I go through a little bit about Sdmath, I'll be walking you through how to sign up for Sdmath. But at any point, pop those questions in the chat and we'll take care of them during the Q&A at the end. So a little bit about Mind Research. We are a neuroscience research nonprofit, not a giant textbook company. Don't worry about teaching, reading, writing, or anything else. We focus on one thing, and we study how the brain learns math, and then we create programs that align to how our brains actually work. And as a nonprofit, we are driven by the mission that you see here on the screen. So this belief really informs everything that we do, because we know that students, all students have the capacity to not only do really well in math, but to actually love it too. And so over our time studying how the brain learns, we've also really come to understand that, or really come to believe that math should be taught the way that we learn. It's a really simple idea, but it also drives everything that we do. And the way that we do that is or way that we reach so many students is the Sdmath program. So before I jump into some of the neuroscience behind Sdmath, I just want to say that we're going to have another session in January. That date has yet to be determined, with kind of some of our best and brightest minds from the curriculum and the game design team. And that session is really going to dive deep into a lot of the facets of neuroscience, such as the spatial temporal reasoning, which is the ST in Sdmath, perception action cycle, schema building, all kinds of great neuroscience stuff. So this session is going to be a little more surface level, but I do want to touch on two specific areas of neuroscience that help inform what Sdmath does. And the first one is the idea of the visual to the symbolic. So let's say I put this image in front of your teachers and I asked how many legs are missing. They would obviously tell me after a minute or two, 14. And if I asked how they solved it, I'd probably hear a few different answers. So almost always middle school folks go, oh, well, that's 3 groups of 2 is 6, 2 groups of 4 is 8, 14. Most elementary teachers will go, well, I skip counted, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And what's interesting is a lot of times my pre-K teachers will say, well, I just counted. Because your mind kind of goes to what you work on with your students, and everyone's right. There's no wrong way to get to that answer. But what's important here is that we've established there's this access point of, if I have one-to-one correspondence, I can solve this puzzle. And I can get to 14, I can get this right. So ideally, most of our 4 and 5-year-olds can get this right. So now Sdmath is mastery-based and it's self-paced. So once I demonstrate that I can do puzzles at this level, I'm gonna move to level 2, And what's going to happen in the program is we're going to start to pull some of the visuals out and insert symbols. In this case, those symbols are numbers. And so notice here that I can't just count straight across anymore. I actually have to have an understanding of what that 3 means and what that 2 means. And I may still employ a strategy that my teacher worked with me on, like drawing a picture or using manipulatives, but I can't just count by ones anymore. And I'm actually just going to jump ahead all the way to the highest level of this game here. And what you'll see, and students would never move this quickly, but we got to get to the end game here. In the highest level of this game, here's what I'm seeing. And so I want you to take a minute and think about if you put this question in front of a 5th grader in your school or your district, how would they react? What comes into their head? What are they thinking? And an answer I get a lot is panic, or they go, what do I do? And a lot of them start thinking, oh man, what did my teacher tell me about how to solve this kind of problem? There were some steps, or there was a rhyme, PEM something. They're trying to recall the language of how someone explained the problem to them. And we do know this is an issue right here in Texas because almost this exact same question was missed by nearly 60% of 5th graders on the STAR a few years ago. So most 5th graders are struggling with this question, and most pre-K students have no problem getting this one right. And what's really interesting here is that mathematically speaking, these 2 questions are the exact same. There is no difference. So the power of Sdmath is that we introduce these ideas visually, and then we purposely transition students from the visual to the symbolic at their exact right speed. So by the time they get here, they've built the conceptual understanding they need to demonstrate that true mastery. Another thing that's really important to note is that we didn't just decide that visual learning for math was actually the best way to go. In your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that processes all information coming in, half of that is devoted to processing visual information. The other half is devoted to processing everything else. So smell, sounds, taste, physical touch, all of that goes into half of your brain. The other half goes into visual processing. So we simply align our instruction to the way that you learn best. Now, another example of why this is so important or why this is so powerful, I'm going to pull this from the NAEP assessment. So a few years ago on what's also called the nation's report card, 3 out of every 4 8th graders got this question wrong. So I want to let that sink in for a second because this is obviously something we want our 4th graders to do. 3 out of every 4 8th graders miss this. It doesn't get much better with a few more years of math either because 2 out of every 3 12th graders also got this question wrong. But why? And if you think about it, the answer is actually really simple because we teach math procedurally. We do a lot of telling and explaining, and then we have kids take practice multiple choice questions that look like this, and we hope that they pick the right answer come test time. Sadly, most of our 8th graders chose either C or D, which means we know exactly what they were thinking, right? They saw 7, they saw 12, saw a plus sign, they added. Some of them said, you know, I feel like my teacher told me the bottom number on a fraction is more important for some reason, so I'm going to add those. The reality is, if they were thinking visually, just imagine how many more students would get this question right. This is a really, really simple question. Almost 1 and almost 1 is almost 2. And by the way, don't think things are too much better here in Texas. A few years ago, about half of Texas 5th graders missed a very similar question to this on the STAR. So I'd also like to take a minute to talk about another aspect of neuroscience, and that's this idea of informative feedback or formative feedback. Now, just to be clear, this is not an Sdmath puzzle. It probably looks really familiar because this is what a lot of programs look like, but I do want to point out a few key differences for our approach. So oftentimes the screen is very busy. There's a lot of writing, there's a lot of words, there might be a timer. There's kind of a whole lot of stuff going on here. And some of it doesn't actually really help you with the math that much. Some of it's kind of taken away. But notice that my timer is counting down and I'm not really sure what the answer is. So I'm just going to click here because I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And it goes, wrong, try again. And I get to click this little button and it's a hint. And so what happens here is one of 2 things. I'm either going to be sent to an easier problem, maybe even at another grade level, a lower grade level, or someone's going to explain the math to me, whether that's via text or maybe a little video plays or a cartoon character. But no matter what, someone tells me how the math works. And you know what? For some kids, that's enough. They might just need a reminder that there's 4 quarts in every gallon, and then they'll know how many are in 2.5 gallons. But I would guess that there's a lot of your kids who aren't going to get that next question right just based on that text-based approach. And they're going to click around, and finally they're going to get to the right answer. And so most programs kind of stop at this stage, but I want to show you the Sdmath approach because it is very different. Now we can ask this exact same word problem, how many quarts in 2.5 gallons, but we can ask it with far fewer words, and we can get right to the heart of the mathematical question. And watch the feedback. Maybe I see this little card here and I think, okay, it's probably 4. So I'm getting it wrong, but instead of seeing the right answer, I actually see why my answer is incorrect. And the animation plays out and it proves the mathematical consequence of my choice. And this is what makes that feedback really informative. And it's why deep learning actually happens with Sdmath. Because then I can take that feedback and apply it immediately to that same exact situation. And what that does is it allows me to build a schema. And I start to associate these visuals with these words, quarts and gallons. So when I see those again, I'm not just remembering a table or a conversion chart, I'm actually drawing on this visual conceptual understanding I've built about why these things make sense and what their relationship is. Just one quick note on that puzzle there. Sdmath is mastery based, so if I had gotten that puzzle wrong a second time, I would have actually started the level over with all new puzzles. We have a random puzzle generator to make sure that students don't guess their way through Sdmath. So I've been talking mostly about how math is visual, which is true, but we also know that it's incredibly important for students to be able to engage in mathematical discourse. And a lot of that's happening in the classroom. But what's really great about Sdmath is teachers can use Sdmath puzzles to help students write word problems or tell number stories. And we know that when students are really deeply engaged in math learning, they do want to talk about it. And that's why included with the Sdmath games are a lot of resources for helping teachers build mathematical discussion in the classroom. So things like puzzle talks and game cards are ways that you can help foster those mathematical discussions. A lot of teachers will also find that projecting an Sdmath game in the front of the classroom is a great way to introduce new material or review previously covered concepts. And there are also printable game mats. So along with that Sdmath puzzle up front, your students can actually have a hands-on manipulative driven experience that goes along with the Sdmath game. So that's a little bit about the approach. Does it work? Mind Research Institute, we like to say research is our middle name. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about research, but there's one thing we study almost as much as how the brain learns math, and that's does Sdmath work? We don't just study it, other people do too. Nonprofit third-party organizations like Wested have found that students who implement Sdmath or schools that implement Sdmath see significant gains in student achievement on the high stakes state assessments. So this is the largest study ever of its kind looking at exactly those kinds of results. There were Texas schools included in this particular study, but what we saw in this Wested study was that schools that used Sdmath outgrew similar random match schools by 14 percentile points. The district used in Texas, or the district that appeared in that study in Texas, was actually Killeen ISD. And what we saw there was this incredible consistent growth across all of these subgroups. So it didn't matter what the starting point was for the student or what the learner profile was. Did they have special needs? Were they an English language learner? Were they gifted and talented? No matter what, once Sdmath got into their hands, the district saw significant student increases. I'm going to jump over to our Texas page soon and show you some of those other incredible success stories. But you can also visit our website. You'll see where Harvard has reinforced these same exact kinds of results that we've seen everyone else and in Texas and all across the country. There's over 120 efficacy studies and counting. So we know Sdmath works on student assessments. What about how kids feel about math? Well, when you ask them what they like about Sdmath, they say things like this. And my favorite response I get all the time is, well, Sdmath is really hard, but I still like it. Because Sdmath is built on intrinsic motivation, kids don't collect coins or score points or shop in fake stores or watch cartoons. Everything they do in Sdmath is mathematical thinking. And it's designed to be really challenging. So when they say they love Sdmath, what they're really saying is, I love hard math. A lot of programs also say that they change the way kids feel about math. We actually have a peer-reviewed journal published study that shows that students who have used Sdmath increase their own self-beliefs in math. and that the impact of that is actually stronger for kids who had a lower math achievement score going in. So when we say we don't just want kids to do well in math, we want them to love it, we have the data that shows that kids who do Sdmath actually do feel more positively about math after that experience. And earlier this year, we saw this incredible trend where we call it Pi Day, March 14th, where schools kind of shut down for the year and students went home and never really came back. We actually saw average usage of Sdmath on a weekly basis by students increase. And some of these Texas friends that we already have, like Northside ISD, actually signed up thousands more kids because they knew that they could rely on Sdmath to be a meaningful learning experience for kids, even when they were stuck at home. I'm gonna do a quick time check. I know we're gonna leave plenty of time for Q&A, and I see those chats popping up. So I'm gonna run through some of the program features from the perspective of students, teachers, and admins, and then we're gonna open things up for questions, and Sandra and I will take care of those. So first, I would like to note that the new Sdmath rolled out on July 1st. We had previously been a Flash-based program. We moved on to a new platform, a modern web technology, HTML5, and we took advantage of that rebuild to really increase some of the features and improve the experience for students in Sdmath. They're able to get to where they left off. There's more time learning. The feedback that happens when I get that question right or get that question wrong, that's actually been enhanced. We rebuilt it wherever we could make it better and clearer, we did. We instituted new controls to allow teachers to do more robust facilitation when students are struggling and to allow some of those greater mathematical conversations to happen. One thing that's been super helpful in this time where it's more often that the teacher and the student are in a different room or a different building altogether, the on-screen annotation tool actually allows teachers to draw out some mathematical thinking and provide some on-the-spot support, and for students to do that as they're trying to explain their mathematical thinking as well. We gave students some more things to track and kind of own their own learning. So we want students really focused on, am I hitting my weekly minutes targets? Am I collecting enough puzzles? Am I making enough progress through? Am I collecting objectives? So there's all kinds of things we can have kids track and really own that on their own progress in Sdmath. For teachers, we looked at how they engage with the Sdmath curriculum, particularly when they want to use it in the classroom, and we just made it simpler for you to explore what kinds of games would be beneficial for your instruction. And also when you're thinking about a game that students are really struggling on right now, we made it really easy for you to go and play that game yourself. A huge improvement has been the ability to assign any Sdmath objective to any student or the whole class. So the way that most teachers are using assignments this year is they say, okay, I'm teaching area and perimeter in 2 weeks, so I'm going to assign area and perimeter to the whole class because I want my students getting that conceptual understanding before I teach it. However, for U5, I think you'll actually benefit from second grade area and perimeter. So I'm going to assign that to you as well. And you'll complete that first, and you won't actually know you're working off grade level. So whether you're assigning something as intervention and remediation, or if you're doing it for acceleration or enrichment, the students don't know that they're working off grade level. Improve the reports. Visualization of data is really big for us. You'll be able to see at a snapshot really quickly, are my kids being productive enough? Are they logging in enough? We will have our standards reporting is being updated right now. So you will see the TEKS right inside Sdmath very, very soon, possibly tomorrow. For admins, we wanted to make it super easy for you to get a bird's eye view. How's my district doing? How's this school doing? How's this class doing? And then this teacher and students. So the architecture allows you to do that deep dive, but you can really get a sense of how your schools are doing with Sdmath. Are they using it enough? Are there any problem areas? We made all that data right at your fingertips, super easy to use. And then our school and district admins receive email reports as well. I believe we are right on time for the Q&A. So I've seen a lot of chats pop up, and I would love to open things back up and get a sense of where the questions are coming from. And welcome Sandra back.
Yeah, there's two right away that I want to address. One is about how we remove the barrier of the learner needing to be proficient in their language to be successful.
Okay.
And so what we see is because we introduce and we lead with the visual and we gradually bring in the letters and numbers and symbols, that language barrier is neutral for the majority of the puzzles. And then they're supported through the instruction in the classroom with the language that they need.
And Sandra, I just want to stop there and take the next question, which I think is the super important one. And that question is, how do I sign up? Before we get to the rest of those in the chat. So just live this morning, we were able to kind of really rely on our engineering team to turn some things around really quickly and get this sign up live. So we had an awesome Sdmath Texas page. Now it is updated and you'll see this banner right at the top. So if you go to sdmath.com/Texas, you will see right here that you can sign up for Sdmath. I want to walk you through some of the resources here. So if I click this button, sign up now, it will actually just take me all the way to the bottom of the page where I type that information in. But before we get there, I want to show you some of the resources that are on this page. So if you would like to see a little more about how Sdmath works and play some games, that's right here at the top. Some of our current friends who already use Sdmath have said some really great things about why they chose it and why they've had so much success with it. If you click these quotes, it'll actually take you to some of these profiles and success. So you can see district-wide, some of the star gains that our partners have seen and some of the ways that they've been able to implement Sdmath and really see incredible results, but also engage the community and really change the way that folks are feeling about math in these particular areas. So I encourage you to check all of those out. In Brassesport, where we stole Sandra away, she oversaw some incredible gains over 5 years on the Meets and Masters for her grade level or for her elementary grades district wide. So we love to highlight that. You can read all about Sandra's success there and see her in a nice video. If you're curious about how we support the TEKS, we've got some, a TEKS alignment guide, what we correlate, what we support, and then just a few examples here for these grade levels, K through 5, about some of the games and some of the ways you think about how you might teach intervals of time, and we'll show you exactly how an Sdmath game would help support that. So these are super quick. If you don't have time to log in and play games, these are about 15-second video clips that just kind of show you how those games work. Again, you can download TEKS correlation, play samples puzzles, and then we have our frequently asked questions, some of those that we covered already, but just got them in writing here. And our beautiful Texas team, we have, as it says there, over 140 years of shared public education service. This is us. We are super excited to support all the Texas schools and students out there. Many of us have been doing it for years, and we just can't wait to help increase the achievement for your students and also change the way they feel about math. So if I was ready to sign up for Sdmath, everything I've seen, it looks great, I want it. Type in, there's a couple boxes here that are already or required for you to fill in: first name, last name, email address. Are you asking for home or individual use? Or are you a district or school program? Now, if I chose home or individual use, I will still be asked what my child's district is, because we do, as Sandra mentioned, want to make sure that if the school is already signed up for Sdmath, they're in the process. We want that to happen on the school side. The students will still be able to use it at home. But let's say I am a district administrator. I say I'm ready. I am here in Austin, where I live. Let's say I'm Austin ISD. I click get started, and it's actually going to take me to just a second page where we're going to ask a little bit more information. Basic questions about kind of your timeline for wanting to get started with Sdmath, some of the math things you already have in place, and make sure that Sdmath is really a good fit for you right now. You're going to hear from an education partnerships manager like me within 2 days when you submit this form. And we're going to reach out just to have a quick chat with you about what the next steps look like and get you set up with the regional implementation manager who's going to be helping you with things like rostering, making sure that student accounts are ready, making sure teacher accounts are ready, and then picking out which professional learning makes the most sense for you. So once you submit down here, you'll hear from one of us within 2 days, and we will be ready to continue the conversation there. If you are a parent and you're on this call, you will be redirected after you submit to our homeschool setup page. And so, sorry about that. I think it's already saved, and I'm a district admin. The process is a little bit simpler if you're a parent, because there's obviously less red tape to jump through. So it'll be a little quicker for the setup, but you will receive additional communication from us about how to get up and running, what devices Sdmath works on, and then what resources are available to you as a parent for supporting your students. And just a quick note, if you are signing up for Sdmath Access and you are working for a school or district, please use your school or district email. That way we know that that we can map that against if there are other folks from your district who have already reached out. If you're an educator, but you are trying to sign your own student up at home, feel free to use your personal email address for that. But if you're coming in on behalf of a district or school, please use your school email address. Okay. And all right, sorry to interrupt you there, Sandra. Let's get back to some of the questions.
Yep, you're good. And there's quite a few. Let me jump back up
Okay.
here real quick. I know there's two specific ones that we wanted to address. Oh, I lost them. Okay, the first one was, so we talked about the barrier of the language in the program, and how the supplemental of the visuals and leading with the visual supports that. We also wanted to address the pathway question. So we have two pathways within the program. We encourage you to start with the grade level pathway of the curriculum for the assigned grade level, and then use the assignments feature to differentiate based on student need. The benefit of that is it keeps them on grade level. It gives them that guaranteed grade level access that they're accountable for that year, and then provides you another layer of intervention to meet them where their need is, anywhere in the K-5 curriculum. So we have both of those pathways. The assignments can be made anywhere outside of their grade level journey. I'm trying to catch.
Sandra, yeah, I can kind of run through some of the ones that I heard. I think there are quite a few about Spanish language resources. So I think there's an overall question, which is how does Sdmath support English language learners? And then there's a specific question about what exactly within Sdmath is used to be able to support English language learners.
Yeah.
So
Do you want me to take it, Sandra, or you got it?
So our quizzes that begin in second grade, we have every objective has a pre-quiz and a post-quiz. Those are more traditional of the type of assessment questions you see in the classroom. So those are available in English and in Spanish. When you're working throughout the program, the language is so minimal that we encourage you to continue with the way the program is built, because that will not be the barrier as they're working through the puzzles.
So we call Sdmath language neutral, and actually that's going to be something we dive into really big time at the January with Nigel Nisbet, who's our VP of content creation. He's going to do a really deep dive into the approach that Sdmath takes and why we consider it language neutral, and why you don't actually need to have any English language proficiency, regardless of what your native language is, to sit down and engage with the math and build deep conceptual understanding.
So to summarize, just to make sure that I'm clear, because it's still getting some questions rolling in about this. High level Sdmath is built such that it's accessible for both English proficient students and English language learners. Is that correct? So it does have Spanish component as well. Great.
All right, you want me to just start with where I think we're at in the questions? I know some of them were answered. If yours doesn't get a response, please let us know. Michelle did ask about the Eureka math and the alignment to it. We have pulled the scope and sequence from the Texas Home Learning, and we are currently building that correlation guide based on the scope and sequence. If there is units with explanation of content and standards and expectations, we will provide you with the objective that correlates with that. So when you're completing that module, as I see it stated here, we'll provide you guidance on which objectives are the best ones to assign and work while you're in that module. Will off grade level be provided for kindergarten? As far as going below, they can, the above grade level will be available. Pre-K would not. That's outside of the curriculum available. But I will tell you that the way that the puzzles create that entry level, you'll see little need to be able to want to put those kids below the kinder puzzles. They will have the scaffolding that builds up to that higher conceptual as they work through the games. There was a question about connecting with NWEA and the MAP scores. You are able to assign work based on the MAP scores, but there's not an integration within the program to do that assignment or that alignment. But that is an excellent way to use the assignments feature once you receive your MAP data. Okay, there is, sorry, I'm trying to read these as I go. So Melissa asked about assigning work from another grade level and does it adjust what the other work they're doing? They stay on their grade level journey. The assignments is in another part of their dashboard and they work on those grade level assignments and they work on their objective that's of the appropriate grade level. Anybody seeing any others I need to take on?
Yeah, Abigail, I see the request here that you, I don't think you are muted automatically. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you there. It sounds like you had a question.
Yes, I'm the director for bilingual ESL here in Dayton ISD, and I have some concerns about and some questions about English learners. I understand that you're saying that language is not an issue because it is very visual, and I totally agree with all that. However, if we're going to be giving the students what they need something in their native language, especially if you've got dual language populations or program. So do you have any plans to put other languages there? Because if they're going to be hearing directions, they're going to be hearing vocabulary. Yes, it is absolutely wonderful, but you're not honoring their language if you're not providing it to them in Spanish. And we know that if we can give it to them in Spanish and English, that it's going to be stronger. So do you have any plans for that?
I'd like to let Nigel actually take that one as the expert here. Go ahead, Nigel.
Thanks, Garrett. Great question, Abigail. I'll be diving into this in a lot of detail in the next presentation, like in a big way. We'll look at really the background of how this works, the neuroscience behind it. Just to answer your question, there are no directions in Sdmath. There are no spoken words in English in Sdmath. So it's not a question that the students will be hearing English, even an English accent as un-Texan as mine. They will not, there are no spoken directions or anything in Sdmath. So I'm going to be looking at in real detail in, I guess, sometime in early January. I don't quite know what the time frame is yet. I think we were looking at the 7th or something like that. So that's when today is really just kind of a big picture overview of kind of like, you know, here's how the sign-in works, yada, yada, yada. What I'm going to dive into is, look, here's how this works for your kids. Here's how this is going to work with your teachers. And we can address examples and questions that you have then looking in detail at, okay, let's go to a place in the program where we can see how we're going to attach the academic vocabulary to these concepts. So I think that hopefully in that meeting, that'll be the time we can dive right into those in great detail.
And I appreciate that.
Fun.
And I appreciate that. But when I hear words such as language neutral, it raises a red flag for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So come to that one. Hopefully we can make the red flags green. And at that point,
I hope so too, because I only want what our students deserve. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you, Abigail, for bringing that up. I think there's another, thank you for the response and look forward to the next webinar, which we'll make sure that folks are in the loop about. I do also want to be clear, like this is meant as a supplement within, you know, a broader suite of resources, and it's not meant to be that one option. So it does fit a big need of building that conceptual understanding. Abigail, I also think that there's like a point of like, you know, let's go and figure out what this tool, what this component is really well used for. and then let's use it for that if it makes sense. But there may be a gap that we need to solve for as well. So thank you for that question. There are some questions in the slides about integration with different platforms. I'm wondering if somebody from the Mind team can answer a question like, is this, I think it was previously discussed in the opening FAQ, but is this assignable through different LMS platforms like Schoology, CMS like Google Classroom, or even Clever or Seesaw?
So we are working with Schoology to be able to integrate with that platform. The other pieces that I've seen, the additional resources that go beyond the objectives and the puzzles, they're all PDF, so you can download any of them and assign them through your, load them through your Google Classroom or Seesaw, and students respond in those printable resources. As far as the program itself, what I've seen for my own children's school is they use Google Classroom, is they put the link in of play.sdmath.com, and it tells the students that they have assignments available to play for that day or that are due by Friday. And so that's how they integrate with the link to the program, and then adding the resources in as PDFs. We do have the, I did see, in addition to that question, the single sign-on that we do through Canvas and ClassLink. And there's a third one, Damon.
I also just want to clarify that the assignments feature of Sdmath is meant to be a tool for teachers. It's not a burden. So students do have their grade level journey, which is aligned to the TEKS that they're working through at their own pace. That's there. That's always available. That's not something the teachers have to log in and say, you have to do this every week. We do want to give the teachers control over the curriculum as far as when they feel like there's something they want students working on at this particular moment that they're going to be benefiting from. But there's not something that teachers have to go in and say, I need you to do this week, and otherwise the kids won't have something to do.
I see another question that just came up about benchmarks. We do not have a traditional beginning year, middle year, end of year benchmark. We have the pre and post quiz scores that are available before and after every objective starting in second grade. And those are provided based on standard alignment as well. We'll provide you details on which standards correlate with that objective, and then the scores that go with that. So that is data that can be included. Any others that we missed?
I saw a universal screener question. Sdmath does not have a universal screener. The main reason is we do not believe that you can demonstrate true conceptual understanding from a few multiple choice questions. And therefore, it's a really kind of dangerous prospect to allow students to test out of an entire large overarching idea, such as fraction concepts, just because they got a couple of multiple choice questions right. So that's why it's self-paced and mastery-based. So students move through, and as they demonstrate mastery, they do move forward in the program. But essentially, that foundational understanding is too important for elementary math, but also middle school math and algebra in high school, to allow students to just kind of jump ahead just because they can get those multiple choice questions right.
I found one that I missed. It has to do with intervention lessons that can be unplugged and used offline. Garrett briefly touched on these. He talked about the puzzle talks. This is how I previously used this in district with RTI. The teachers would facilitate a puzzle talk on the grade level need of her RTI groups. They would pull the game boards out, the manipulatives that align with those puzzles, facilitate the discussion in class, and then she would use that objective for the students to work after they'd had an experience with the teacher. So there are pieces that we do encourage you take those visuals and that experience that they're having with the puzzles and put that into class instruction.
Wonderful, folks. Thank you all again for taking the time out of your day to talk with us. Thanks to the Sdmath team for giving us an overview. Good question in the chat about the availability of the next session. So we'll get information about that session up on Texas Home Learning as soon as we have it. And then also we'll push it out via our newsletter. So you'll get it in a couple of different ways. So on our website or through the newsletter. But with that, we are at time and do want to respect folks' time. If you do have questions, again, please reach out, Texas Home Learning at ta.texas.gov. reach out to me. I put my my name in the chat, and I'll do it again. And then finally, if you are interested in learning more, go to stmath.com/Texas, where you can see the sign up. You can see some good case studies. You can play some math games, which are my favorite. And we look forward to working with y'all again in the future. Thanks, y'all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.